Having seen and analyzed the previous videos and the frameworks made by Professor Porter and Professor Brandenburger, now we have to work to find the synthesis on these two frameworks. So the point is, we are looking for performance above average. So companies that are able to accomplish something that is important for the customer, but is also providing a above average return for its shareholders. So we have these two frameworks that are the only two frameworks that has been accepted and theorized by the academia since Porter frameworks approach and up to now. On the left, you see the 5 forces model. On the right, you see an example made by Professor Van der Steen on the Brandenburger framework. So which are the differences among these two models? On the left, you can see that the starting point was Porter 5 forces model that basically was looking for competitive advantages made out of firms that were performing above the industry averages. So what Porter was basically analyzing was the industry average more than the single company competitive advantage. The reason why this was happening was because its framework was made to understand impact on policy making decisions on averages performance in an industry. And Professor Gemabat, refining the Porter models, come up with the proposal of doing the analysis, the competitive analysis, not on an average firm as a benchmark, but as the best benchmark you can have. That usually is your closest competitor, your best competitor, the competitor that usually you compete with in the marketplace. So here we have the process and the analysis done on the Porter industry level framework. On the right here we have Brandenburger. Brandenburger and Stewart basically say that the unit of analysis was the added value. So how much value a single company or a single product is adding to the final customer. And in this case, the competitive advantage is having a wider spread from the willingness to pay the customer has for the product and the cost you incur to buy inputs and pieces for that product or that offering from suppliers. So the wider the total value you created, the bigger is your competitive advantage. So again, also from this framework, practitioners and other academics after Brandenburger and Stewart, we work on performance measures as Professor Gemabat did in the 5 forces model. And here the key point is that willingness to pay and opportunity cost for suppliers are not readily available and are not, let's say, statistically relevant. There are no numbers or tables or things that analyze quantitatively these two numbers. Therefore, we create proxies, and the proxies are very easy, the price and the cost. If you look at the price case, it's very straightforward. If I have a willingness to pay for a cup of coffee of 1.5 euros, and the price of that coffee is 1 euro on the market, I will definitely buy the cup of coffee. So what we know about the coherent actions of customers is that they are buying something when has a price below their willingness to pay. Therefore, at least that is the minimum level of willingness to pay that they have. If I buy the cup of coffee at €1, nobody can infer if my willingness to pay is 1.1, 1.2, 1.01 or 1.5 euros. But for sure, everybody see that my willingness to pay is above €1, because if it is not, I will not buy the cup of coffee. So we use prices and cost, always having in mind the fact that the target of our action strategic wise is increasing willingness to pay, so that we can increase prices. So if you look, just to be, let's say, to review this, if you look at the Porter model, Porter is discussing about industries, group of companies, the industry in which you are in, the industry to which you are selling or final customers, if you're not selling to business companies, the industry or the industries from which you are buying, which are the entrants, potential industry entrants entering your industry, and which are substitute, other industry who are competing on the same with the same need for the customer. If you look at the Brandenburger, as we've seen in the previous videos, it's completely different. We are looking on a single transaction. There is a customer who has a willingness to pay of 150 or 100. We have to compete to get that deal done, and so on and so forth. And for example, taking Professor Van der Steen approach, we have a case here in which we compare Walmart and Kmart. And if you see, coming back on measure of performance, we are measuring a single competitor. Let's take Kmart for Walmart, and we are looking for a single customer transaction. So these are two supermarkets. The average basket of your of what you buy in the supermarket is 100 for Kmart. It's 97 for Walmart. So the average amount of money you spend for your average goods is 197. So we look at a single transaction. And if you put this transaction in the Brandenburger model, you clearly see that you can compare companies. Here we have Kmart. Kmart is selling for 100, is paying for the goods is selling to you 96.2. And here it's clearly already you have one inside supermarket business model. It's thin margin business model. It's based on volume, in fact. Then we compare the same average amount of goods, both by the same customer, same standard customer to Walmart. Here it's 97, and here is 89.7. So what we come up knowing is that Walmart is getting more value, is capturing in the value creation process more value. It's getting $3.5 more than Kmart. It's capturing that amount for him. But on the other side, we also see that Walmart is taking part of that value, or the total amount of that value, from suppliers. So Kmart is paying for the goods is selling to its customer 96.2. Walmart for the same goods is paying 89.7. So it's getting from suppliers $6.5 of value. Out of that 6.5, Walmart is skipping $3.5 for the company and is giving $3 of value to customers. In fact, customers going to Walmart can buy the same goods they can buy from Kmart, but they will pay $3 less. So here you see value creation and value capturing. Here it's a matter of value capturing. I'm capturing, being Walmart, more value from suppliers, and I'm taking 3.5 from me. I'm giving away some of the value captured from suppliers to final customers. So if we look at industry analysis, Porter's 5 forces model, we see that there are different point of analysis, different performance analysis vis-a-vis the Brandenburger value system framework. So we can see that unit analyses are different. Industry vis-a-vis product or single firm. The point we look at is different. The Porter framework is only based on who is capturing value. So in the Porter view, we are not looking at things that are increasing the total value created. We are just looking at how, given a total amount of value creating, actors within the competitive arena are capturing different quantity of value. So it's a lot of matter of powers. Power of supplier, power of customer, power of entrant, power of substitute. Why? Because we are competing on the same pot of value. In the Brandenburger's case, we also have created value. How much we can increase the total value, and then we deal to capture that value. The third point is, let's say, financial quantitative measures. Also in this case, we are looking on different total amount of value. Why? Because the performance of a company, let's say the total profit or the return on equity, is not the average industry profitability plus the value created from its competitive advantage, because here there is a double counting. The competitive advantage is creating profit, within which there is also the averages. So if you look at the Porter model, you see averages differences. On the other part, we don't see the value creation and the bargaining power in the model. Therefore, we have to think about different way to measure the two values if we want to keep them in the same model. So the first point is, let's try to be operative to use the approach suggested by Brandenburger and approved by Gemavacht in the 5 forces framework approach to look at single product or single competitors. So this is key, because when we go down to single competitors, we can easily see the value creation at work. So what is doing my competitors and what I'm doing, I am doing to increase the value of my final customer. And second, let's compare, not myself against averages, but myself against my most insightful competitor. So what we should analyze, given the fact that we are analyzing one company, one competitor against us, and one average, one competitor and one transaction, what we should analyze is those single transaction on a single segment, to a single segment of customer, because the point is that in that case, you can really see value creation at work. So the example of Professor Van der Steen, Walmart, is very good in selling basic goods to lower middle class. So there you see value creation at work for Walmart. But if you compare using averages of the industry, the performance of Walmart selling a fashion good to a higher middle class, that probably some competitors like Target can be, that are in the same industry, can do, you don't see really value creation a la Walmart working in that case. So keeping a homogeneous transaction analysis approach, and then when you compete, that's the second point on the chart, when you compete with your competitors, you compete on the transaction base. You don't compete on averages. You don't compete on industry-wide decision. You compete on the single transaction with a single segment of customers. So if we accept that we have two frameworks, 5 forces and value-based, and if we accept that we have to find a way to be focused on a single transaction, on a single competitors, on a single segment of customers, we have to understand how we can sum up the different performances in terms of quantitative analysis. And here, Professor Van der Steen offered an interesting solution. There are three components of your strategic performance. The first one is the common performance. The common performance is industry-wide. What does it mean? You and your competitor, on average, are getting some value. Why? Because you are able to compete all together, and as a group, you create some value, and everybody is joining the group, is getting that common value. You're doing something as an industry that is useful for the customer, and you're paid for that. Then someone is better in doing that, is better because it's doing different things, is having less cost, so we move on the second step. But at the first step, everybody has a standard minimum amount of performance. That's the common performance of the industry. Then you have two kinds of advantages. The first one is bargaining and pricing advantage. Given the fact that you are in a value chain a la Brandenburger or a la Porter in the horizontal part of the 5 forces model, supplier, industry, firm, and customers, in that area, there is a total amount of value generated, and then there is a capturing approach at work. So if you are better in bargaining with others, as the Walmart case we just seen, or if you are better in pricing because you have more information, you have bigger dimension, you know more things about the willingness to pay of your customers, and if you want a clear concrete example on this, Amazon is one of these examples. So you have an advantage due to the fact that you can better bargain or better pricing. And usually this is linked with scale. One of the reasons why you see a lot of startups in the high tech that are working hard and investing huge amount of money to become bigger, to get customers, it's just because they are trying to get this kind of advantage. Again, you want an example? Spotify is working on dimensions to have better bargaining power vis-a-vis artists and labels, and better pricing capability towards customer, adding services, more services to big volumes of customers. Then you have the third component, the most interesting one, is value creation advantage. So you can, in your value system, not only bargain for capturing more value, but you can increase the total value of the customer. And if you're doing that, just you in your industry are doing it, so you can increase your performance and you can higher the price, and you can higher the price your competitors cannot, because you're doing something that is creating value, proprietary value for the customer is proprietary of you. So it's giving you a value creation advantage. If we try to put these three performance on a chart to make them more clear, you clearly see that in an industry, there is the common performance. This is your company. This is, let's say, the other one, your best performer or your best competitor, if you want. And you can see that you have 10% operating margin. 5 out of these 10, it's common in the industry. The industry is getting 5%, everyone. Or let's say your competitor, if you want, is getting 5. Then we have another additional 5. We are pricing, our P1 is higher than our competitors P2, and we are getting this additional 5 for 2 reasons. The first one is 3% because I create more value than him, 2% because I have a bargaining advantage higher than him. So this is my competitive advantage. This is the common performance. So if you want to increase your capability in doing better performance, you can do 2 things. First one, you can do better than competitors through a competitive advantage. That competitive advantage or those competitive advantages are get through bargaining advantage or to value creation advantage. Or you can just join an industry in which cooperating with your competitors in the industry, you increase the common performance. So there is also an option of competition in which the overall value, the overall industry is giving to the customer is increasing. Again, you want a concrete example. In banking, there is a flow of strategic initiative to increase the digitalization and the digital experience and the digital interaction between bank and customer, and this is common value. Banks are investing a lot of money but are saving a lot of OPEX, and customer is getting a better value, so the common value of the industry is increasing. So if we come back to the Brandenburger approach and we look at how we can work on these 3 different strategies, we take the Brandenburger approach, value creation and value capture, and we see that there is a common performance. Here, there is, let's say, both at work, so the performance of the industry can increase because the value is higher in terms of creating more value, or because the entire industry capture more value from the customers. So, for example, if you want to see a common performance in an industry, you can give a look on video streaming. Video streaming to change the habits of the customers and to compete with very strong competitors in the cable TV industry was at the beginning entering the market and serving the customers at an incredibly low price. With less than 10 euros or $10, you have your Netflix subscription. Little by little, the streaming industry competing with the cable industry is increasing prices overall. So they are still stealing viewers from the cable TV industry, but they are little by little increasing the prices. So you see Netflix or Prime or Disney Plus that little by little are increasing prices, and we are just at the beginning of that process. In that case, the common performance of the video streaming industry is increasing. Then we have the 2 cases in which a single company is increasing its performance. So in the value creation area, if you have an advantage in terms of value creation, you will increase the value for your customer. There is willingness to pay will increase and your price will increase. So for example, the choices, the ample choices you have in the larger choices you have on Netflix, it's different from the choices you have in other video streaming company or the content exclusively produced by Netflix is, let's say, something that is specific of Netflix, so it's creating a specific value for its viewers, and so Netflix has a value creation advantage. Bargaining advantage, again, and this is value creation. I have more value because when I use Netflix video streaming, I can have specific series or specific movies that are made by Netflix that I can find only there. On the other side, there is the bargaining advantage. In this case, I'm not creating more value for the customer, I'm just getting more value from the chain, from the supply chain of value towards the customer. Therefore, if I'm Netflix, I'm bigger. When I deal with suppliers, I can ask them discount, or I can pay the same amount for a specific director or a specific artist, but then I spread that cost, which is a fixed cost, to a huge amount of viewers, more than 200 million at the beginning of 2021, than the number of viewers that, for example, Prime or Disney Plus has. That's the reason why those competitors are still working hard to get more viewers. So, taking, let's say, the last point on the table, if you want to work to increase your performance, and you have to leverage your competitive advantages to do that, you have three areas. You can work on common performance, working with industries to increase the performance of the industry. You can increase your bargaining power, so try to get more value from other players in the value system, or you can create more value for the customer, and in the case you want to take part of the total amount of the additional value you created. So now let's try to understand in the next video if this probably slightly complex theoretical wise structure has some approach can be used in the real world, and we will see some example who will hopefully clarify this kind of approach.